Hey, welcome back. So we're doing pretty good. We've got create, we've got read, we've got delete. The only thing we need to do is update. The way this app chooses to implement update, may as well show it here, is that there's no edit from this screen. You have to go in a layer and then click on the edit button, and then it gives you an opportunity to put on changes here. So you can edit the quote in here. So it's actually a separate. It didn't show up there, right? Something was weird about that. So it's actually a separate view controller that we're going to go to. And I promise you it will work, unlike my little example there. I'll be back. It's because I didn't actually type anything. So exclamation points, edit quote. Cool. I forgot I was using the hardware keyboard. All right, so let's go ahead and make this happen. So the first thing we want to do is we want to click here and we want to make that push on the detail view controller. So if we come into our code, go ahead and close up some of these things. So let's go ahead and close that guy and we'll come into the TS here. HTML first, sorry. And so what happens is we've got this button right here. And when we click this button, currently doesn't call anything. So let's just go ahead and put a click listener on here. And then we'll just say, we can say whatever you want. We'll say push detail view, and we'll pass in the movie quote. Again, it's going to turn out that all we really need is the key, but this time, just to kind of do it different from what I did before, I'm going to go ahead and pass in the movie quote. So I'll pretend like I don't know what's going to be the result. But push movie quote, so it's just going to have a movie quote, which is a movie quote. It's going to return nothing. And so what we want to do here is we want to do what we did before. So we're going to use the nav controller to do a push. And the thing we're going to push on is a quote detail view page, I believe was the name of it. Must not have been the name of it because it didn't autocomplete. So let's go see what the name of that thing is. Is a quote detail page. What did I say? Quote detail, take out the word view. Quote detail page. And so with just that, it'll work. It'll show the quote detail page, but it'll show that blank page for everybody just the same. This is the quote detail page. This is the quote detail page. We want to actually pass in information. So we've got to decide what do we want to pass in. So we can pass in different information. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in just the key. And then if I pass in the key, then he can set up his own subscription to listen for changes to this key. And so I'm going to say key, and then I'm going to say movie quote $$ key. And it's guaranteed to have a $$ key in this case because it came from Firebase. So there we push it over with a little parameter of key. Now we're going to have to go receive that parameter on the other side. So we come over to the TypeScript for the quote detail. And you can choose to do work either in Ionic View did load, or you can do it kind of the more angularly way, which is to implement on init. We're also going to eventually need on destroy. I'm going to cheat a little and just go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to implement on init and on destroy. And if you want to, you can have it type it for you. It's kind of annoying when it types it because it puts in the big error message thing, right? So I'm going to put that down here, and then I'm going to get rid of the Ion View did load. I don't know why I prefer to do things the angularly way, but I kind of do sometimes. And then I want init above destroy, of course. What crazy person do you think I am? All right, and so the first thing I want to do is I want to get that parameter out. And so I'm just going to say const movie quote key is equal to this dot. And it's kind of neat. The the template that it generated gave me the nav params tool so that I could easily get nav params, which was very nice of them. But you just say get, and then you just say what the thing is that you're getting. Feels very much like web development when you're getting URL parameters. So it just kind of reminds me of App Engine there. So now we've got the key. Just to do a quick console log. So we'll just say make a stream to, and then we'll just print off the movie quote key to make sure everything is working out fine. So now whenever I click one of these things, it'll still visually do the same thing on the screen. But over here it'll say make a stream to, and you can see that that one ended in JB, whereas if I click the second one, it ends in VJ. So it's actually telling us the right key on the other side, which is kind of cool. So we're able to push things through and then receive them on the other side. So what we want to do over here on this side is we want to make a movie quote stream. This is going to be a Firebase object observable. Hardest word to type for me ever. And we're going to make a connection to a single movie quote. So we're going to make an object observable just to that one object. So it's not an array or anything, it's just a single movie quote. And we're going to set that up. So right here we're going to say this dot movie quote stream is equal to this dot db. I don't have access to db, so I need to fix that. That's an easy fix though. We'll just say private db Angular Fire database. We'll auto import that. And so now we can say this dot db dot object is what we want to do. So where is this object? I'm going to use a backtick, which is just to the left of the one key. I'm going to say this thing is at slash quotes slash, and then I'll just put in $$ here. Sorry, slash dollar stash. Look at what I type, not what I say. And so that's going to connect me to the quotes path and this specific quote, which is just what I want, which is great. So now I've connected that stream. Once I've connected the stream, I can actually display it in the HTML. I got a lot of junk going on up here. I'm just going to thin it down a little. Put in a lot of spaces. So I don't really need all these spaces. Going to kill that one too. And so what do we want here? So we've got Ion content. Let's just go ahead and put on an Ion card. So I don't think we've used cards yet, so it's kind of neat, all these different skills we could use. But just like with material design things, there's a card. So we're just going to go ahead and make a card on here. This card is going to have Ion card content, so very similar to Angular Material 2 there. And inside this content, we're just going to make an H2 with the movie quote stream pipe to async, because we want the actual stream, and then we'll put that whole thing in parentheses, dot quote. Don't know why it didn't want me to have another slash there. And this thing might exist, it might not when things are loading up. So I'm going to use the Elvis operator. So it's kind of like a silently do nothing if it doesn't exist, right? Then I'm going to do a similar thing for the movie, except for I'm going to put it into a p tag. And I'll just switch that to the word movie. Cool, I think that looks pretty good. So now it should work, right? So now whenever I click on this thing, it says everything is awesome, the Lego movie. So it totally worked. Just to kind of play with things, we're going to throw a little bit of CSS on here. I suppose I should click the other one and just make sure that everything works well with the CSS. So in order to do some things with the CSS, I'm going to add some IDs in some places. The first one I'm going to do is in the Ion content. I'm going to add an ID of DetailView. So the content is kind of like the whole screen. So that would be a nice thing that we can use. And then down here on the movie quote, I'm going to do some work down here as well. I'm going to say ID movie hyphen title. And it's fine to use an ID here because it's not a repeated field. There is just one of them present on this page. Let's go add a little CSS then. So we've got a DetailView. And then we've also got a movie title. Now technically I could put the movie title inside the DetailView, but I'm so descriptive here that I just don't even need to bother. And then just for giggles, I always kind of like to see about the possibility of having them side by side. But the DetailView, one of the first things I want to do is I'm going to give a background color of EEE, which is just kind of like a slight off-white. So now whenever I look at this thing, you can see that it's kind of like tinted a little differently on the background view. And then you can set other things on it too. So I'm just going to say, hey, the Ion card that's in here, give me a little margin on the top. So I'm just going to lower you down a little bit. I'll just say 40 pixels, and then that'll just kind of push it down some. For the movie title, I'll do a couple things. Let's just go ahead and make the color on the movie title. It's already pretty much a light gray, but I'm going to go ahead and specify. I'm going to say 888. That was probably unnecessary. I'm going to say text align right, which should shoot it over to the right. I'm going to say margin top, just to kind of put it away from the other one a little bit. I'll do 8 pixels, so you can see it drop it down just slightly. And then this is just kind of a trick. I'm going to add a pseudo selector to whatever comes before this. Is going to have the content of a hyphen. If you really get into pseudo selectors, pseudo elements, sorry, that's what I meant to say. Pseudo elements there, you can kind of add things to your page, which I think is kind of cool. So just added a little bit of CSS there. That was all fun, but there's no way to actually edit it yet. I was going to do it as a separate video, but let's just knock it out, right? So to actually edit this thing, we're going to have a button we can click. What I'm going to do is I'm going to steal from the list.html. I'm going to steal their Ion buttons, and I'm going to bring it over into here. So after the quote, still inside the nav bar, I'm going to plop it in here. Obviously, the thing that happens when you click it is different. We'll just say edit quote, and the icon name is going to be different. There's a lot of different icons. It's kind of fun to play with icons, but yeah, there's just so many. The one that we're going to use, so you can look for like edit, and you can kind of like see it's like, well, edit didn't really show me what I wanted. I think the one that I want is called iOS Create or something like that, or maybe it's just Create. There we go. And so you can see that there's these different like looks of these things. So the one that I like, there's iOS Create, there's iOS Create Outline, and there's MD Create. I like this one right here, iOS Create. So what I did is I looked up Create. I decided which of these I like best. I like that one, and then when I clicked on it, you can see it shows me exactly how to use it. So instead of add, I'm going to have it say iOS create outline. Cool. And that's going to call a function edit quote. So let's go inside and make an edit quote function. So edit quote is going to return nothing. It didn't need to receive anything because there's only one quote being edited here. And let's just go ahead and make sure this works. So we'll just say edit. I don't really care what I say in the log because I'm going to delete the log in like 1 second anyway. So now you can see that when I'm in here, it's got a button up here. And when I click it, it says edit. Great. Now what I really want to do on an edit is very similar to what I did before with create. I want to show a dialog. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab my dialog because it's going to be pretty similar. So I grab from the prompt down to the present, and I'm just going to pop it in here. And then I'm going to start changing things, right? So the first thing is that it's mad about that I didn't do dependency injection. That's easy to fix. So I just needed to add this alert controller line. So I add the alert controller line, do the auto import. So now that's fixed, no longer mad about that. Instead of add quote, I want it to say edit quote. The name and the placeholder are fine. The other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to set a value. Now this actually presents a problem because now I need the movie quotes in TypeScript. So my stream here was great. It gave me access to the movie quote in the HTML because I did the async over there. Async is kind of like a subscription. But now I need the movie quote in TypeScript. So now I need to do a little bit more work. So here's what I need to do. I need to find where I made that stream, which is right here. And I need to subscribe to it. And so I'm going to say this.moviequotestream.subscribe. And then when you subscribe to it, you need to give it a fat arrow function. When you subscribe to a stream, it's going to give you whatever that stream fires, which in this case it fires movie quotes. And then what I want to do is I want to actually just save that off. So I'm going to have to save it off to this.movie quotes. And then I can use it elsewhere in my code. So I need to save off the movie quote. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make a new member variable for a movie quotes. So I could make it private, but to be honest, if I make it public, then I could use it in my HTML, which will make my HTML a little cleaner. I'm also going to need a subscription, so I could name this whatever I wanted. I'll call it, this one can be private, movie quote subscription. And the reason for this is that if you ever subscribe to something, you're also responsible for unsubscribing from it. So subscription, which is kind of like a very verbose pain. But if I subscribe to it, I'm going to have to unsubscribe from it. So I'm going to grab that. And at the moment I say .subscribe, it actually returns a subscription. So I'm going to say this.subscription. And then now I can unsubscribe from it later. So that's the only downside about needing things in the TypeScript, is that you have to make a subscription and then you have to unsubscribe from it. And then here I've got the movie quote that I saved off. Interestingly, now why is it complaining about this? Oh, that's just something I copied in. It's complaining about that because that's going to be totally different. So now, another thing I can do, just kind of as a convenience, instead of subscribing to the async stream over here, I can actually get rid of that. And I can just say, hey, use my movie quote variable, because now I'm subscribed in the TypeScript. So all that work in the TypeScript made this a little cleaner over here, not a lot cleaner, but a little cleaner. But the real reason I did it is so that I could pre-populate the value with the quotes, because if we're editing, we want to actually show what used to be there. So let's go ahead and copy that and put a very similar thing here where we show the movie. It did not have trailing commas, so I had to add a trailing comma there. Cool, so that's going to put the quote in and then the movie in. Cancel is still the same. Add quote is going to say edit quote. And then when you save it, instead of doing a push, we're going to do things a little differently. We're going to use the movie quote stream .set data. Cool. And by the way, last time I said we were going to check to make sure there was no extra garbage. But yeah, it looked like data didn't have any extra garbage. So we've done a lot of work here. That's untested, admittedly. So we're going to test a lot of things at the same time. So the first thing we're going to test is, does it show the quote still? So it shows the quote still, which is good. That means our subscription worked. That means saving it off to the movie quote worked. We're going to click the edit button, and you can see that a couple things worked here. So it says edit quote in the title, it says edit quote down here. It says everything is awesome in the Lego movie. So actually, a lot of things are working. And so all those populates right here work just fine. The only thing we need to check is, does edit really edit it? So I'm going to go ahead and kind of make it smaller here. So everything is awesome. I'm just going to add a couple more exclamation points and hit edit quotes. And you can see the edit worked just fine. So if I edit it again and I take it back to no exclamation points, you can see edit work there. If I clicked on my other one, I added this one, I put an exclamation point on Yo Adrian, you can see that that also worked fine. Cool. And if you wanted to, you can check it on your other devices, right? So you can check it on a Android device here, and you can see it works fine. It's just the UI looks very different. It looks very Android-y, which is cool. Great. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here and check this guy in. I think we just finished this app. So we added a click listener onto the table so that it would push the detail view. We added a function in here to push the detail view, and we passed in the key. The key is all the detail page really needed. On the detail page, we added quite a bit. We didn't exist before, so we basically made the whole detail page. Added a little CSS, which admittedly was optional. And then we did some work in the TypeScript. And the important things here were that we received the key. So here's where we received the key in. We made a stream, which we always make streams. And then the thing that was different here is we subscribed to it in the TypeScript. and we subscribed to it in the TypeScript because we needed it. We needed access to those things in the TypeScript, so we had to do it in the TypeScript. And whenever you subscribe to something in the TypeScript, you're responsible for unsubscribing as well, so we did that. So this is edit a movie quote. Cool. So we are done with this guy. Come back next time and we'll do a little bit of deployment. All right. See you then. Bye.